chain smoking on the
Hey guys, what's going on? Hope everybody had a good weekend. I got my turbo manifold done. One of the stud holes, the threads were a little knocked down and there was probably some paint in there or something, I couldn't really tell. But I ended up finding a tap for that. I tapped that out. And then also my exhaust side wasn't matching up to the manifold, like the stud was a tiny bit off. And so I went and got a carbide bit and I was able to, because of the exhaust side is cast, I was able to round it out just a tad bit so that it would line up properly, because the only other option I could think of was to heat up the stud and then bend it over with a torch, which I think would jeopardize the strength of the stud. So I ended up just kind of rounding the exhaust side out just a tad bit on my turbo, and everything mounts up properly now. So there it is right there, all mounted up. This is how the turbo will basically be clocked. I need to clock the center. I already got the oil line in. I need to get the exit going down to the oil pan here. Other than that, I also got my intercooler mounted. It's back outside the car right now, so I'll show you guys a picture of that. I'm just waiting on the rails under my frame to be welded by Rob, because when I cut the bottom of my trunk out, I got so close to the frame that I knocked the sheet metal that lines the bottom off the rails. And so he's gonna weld those up, and then I'm gonna clean everything up and paint that this week. I also got the parts that I've been waiting on, or half of the parts that I'm waiting on, so I'll show you guys those. All right, and so for the parts, I got hub and bearing assembly for the rear. I've got ties for the front sway bar, ball joints, stage 8 locking bolts, of course the CV joints, the HD CV joints, and I got some axle seals here, and my axle carrier bearing. The CV joints, I wouldn't wish this upon anyone. It's not a fun job. I've had to take the one I actually completed apart 2 times so far, and last night I just realized that I'm gonna have to take it apart for a 3rd time. Make sure, my buddy recommended printing out pictures and hanging them so that you can just have a reference to look at, because I thought it was pretty damn straightforward, so I just kind of dove into it. And I've had to take apart that one, like I said, 2 times. And last night I realized after pulling apart my other side that I'm gonna have to take this one apart again. So what I did wrong on this one was I put the CV joint backwards. This step down is supposed to be facing the solid axle side. There's also a gasket here that has adhesive on the back side, and the first time I put it in here I had it backwards where the adhesive was facing this deal. Obviously I had it on the wrong side because of this. And so make sure that falls into that groove right there and has the adhesive downward, and then that will mount up against your solid axle. And then for today, I'm gonna try to get my wheel bearings out so I can install the new bearings and hubs. I don't have a press here at the shop, and so I'm gonna do that at work. I'm also gonna try to get the bearing for the axle carrier bearing, the axle carrier bearing down the shaft today. I got as far as getting everything off of it last night. I just can't get that bearing to budge. So, well, look at what we have here. So, right here there is no axle carrier bearing. I was able to get the outer race and the inner race, or the outer race and the ball bearings off, and then I actually ended up grinding with my little Dremel like a little tiny channel in the side of the inner race, and I was able to get a wedge in there and just pound on it enough that it finally broke loose, and with of course some WD-40 penetrating spray, which is somewhere up there. So I also got my hubs and bearings off. That was, I have to say, it was pretty frightening with 20 tons of pressure on those bearings, and the one I don't know if it was the right or the left, but that was not budging with the 40,000 pounds on it. So we let the pressure off, and then did it again and kind of rinse and repeat, and finally it budged. And when those things go, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of scary. And so In other news, I got the trunk all painted, and so I'll show you that. So I got the trunk painted. I'll be mounting the intercooler back up today. I also got everything torqued down. I shortened my oil line a little bit. I'm not gonna put the turbo on, of course, already, but I got the intake on now, all sealed up and everything. Getting pretty excited now. We should be getting close to getting the engine back in. And so next on the list is to do the ball joint on my right hand side, which is not a fun job if anybody's done that as well, especially now that it's off the car. I'm gonna be using a pickle fork. Luckily my stepdad had one of those and it made it a lot easier to get off. I haven't used the other method, which is, I'm not 100% sure what the name is of it, but I've seen the other method and I'm sure that one works good, but this one it worked good for me. On the other one, it definitely needed a little bit of persuading with a mini sledge. But also, I think I've mentioned in one of my other videos that I definitely would like to do something about the front tires on my car. Like, I would like wider rims all the way around, but due to money constraints right now, and I just want to finish the build and kind of get it running, and then I can start worrying about like the aesthetics of it all. I'm thinking about going with like a 5mm spacer up front, which will require extended studs for the front. I just really want some tire poke up front. I think that just totally changes the feeling of the car when you're looking at it. Not so much when you're in the car, of course, unless you have the wider tires. But because right now I'm running 215s up front. I got inky RPF ones, which I love the rims. I think that if I went with another set, I'd just get wider RPF ones. I think the specs are pretty unmatchable, and they're relatively cheap for the quality and the weight and everything. But my front tires are 8 inches, or my front rims are 8 inches, and I think they're 35 offset, so they're not like, you can't go much more on a positive offset. And when I reach in there to touch where my tire meets or how close it is to the coilover, it's like right there already. And so I wouldn't be able to put any wider tires, which was one of my plans originally. I wanted to kind of put a wider tire, hoping that it would stretch out a little bit further and roll over the side. But I think I'm gonna go this route. If anybody has any advice around that, feel free to comment or anything. I just feel like there's people that are very good at setting up a car and making it the specs specifically with the tires and wheels, and I'm just not at that point. But I'm gonna try some like cheap methods out before I go full, $1,200 for a set of rims, and then I gotta buy the tires and everything as well. So if anybody's got some knowledge about that and wants to share it with me, that'd be great. So first, I'm just gonna get the cotter pin off and get the nut off. And then I'm gonna come at it with the pickle fork. I'm just gonna get this little biatch out of here. That was easier than it should have been. Take another 9mm, or 19mm, I'm sorry. Now we're gonna try to break this fucker loose. Oh, fuck. Gotta give him the 2 oogas. The 2 oogas. And it's time for the pickle fork. Get that puppy in there real tight. Come on. Come on. Oh, fucker. Give her some of that good. Alright guys, so after beating on that for like 3 days, I ended up breaking it loose. What helped me break it loose was just saturating it in PB and WD-40 penetrating spray. But what ended up being the biggest help was getting it hot. I got it hot one time a couple days ago, but I was kind of held back on the heat. This time I actually spent more time with just a MAP gas torch, nothing crazy, and I got it pretty damn hot. And I took one big strike and it just popped right loose. So that's like the 3rd time I've used heat in conjunction with penetrating spray, and so I'm going to be using, that's going to be my new method, because it seems like every time I get it hot, it just pops. So with that being said, I'm on to the next project. I got my fuel pressure regulator mounted and all my fuel lines ran. E85 sensor in place, did all those. I got another race car in the shop. My motor is down on the floor right there, if you can see it. Transmission is on. So big things are about to happen this week. As always, please like and subscribe if you like my content, and I'll talk to you guys later this week. Thanks for watching.